Hi all, welcome back to a new episode for the weekly polity and governance issues of the week. So let's have a quick roundup of what the important topics related to your UPSC GS paper 2 with regard to polity and governance made news. This will also be helpful for those preparing for the state services examinations such as the APPSC Group 1 Group 2 and also the TSPSC Group 1 Group 2. So let's have a quick review of what made news with regard to your polity and your governance the week gone by. That's from April 16th to April 22nd. So there was the first Buddha summit that happened in Delhi. Along with that, there was a new quantum mission that was launched. There was so much going around the same-sex union at Supreme Court. Supreme Court questioned the remission which was granted to the Bilkis Bano convicts, and so the border issue between Assam and Arunachal Pradesh made high headlines this week. Let's look into each one of them one by one quickly. So the very first time India organized the first global Buddha summit, and that too at the time of celebrating 75 years of independence, that is the Amrit Kal period. So Prime Minister Modi inaugurated the first global Buddha summit in New Delhi, and he said that that India was staunchly preaching Buddhism, and which is the path to sustainability and also the path of the future. He said that Buddha preached abandoning of war, defeat and victory, and we need peace now at the present times when the Ukraine war is still not over. There is also a crisis going on in Sudan as well. Prime Minister went on to say that most of the problems that are facing the challenging times at present, like war, economic crisis, terrorism, climate change, etc., all these contemporary global challenges can be addressed with the teachings of Lord Buddha. Now, the path of Buddha is the path of future and also sustainability for the future. Problems arose, he said, that because the nation stopped thinking about others and started just to think of their present needs. And that is the reason for many climate change issues and also global warming and ecosystem problems that we are facing at the current situation. Prime Minister gave the example of Mission Life that was launched during the second updation of the intended nationally determined contributions, or the INDCs, that it had to submit to the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change. And he said that these were influenced by the inspirations of Buddha. Now, the International Summit of Buddhism was attended by delegates from almost 30 countries, and the participants like monks, scholars and heads of Buddhist institutions were in India during this summit. Let me tell you that we have many places of Buddhists with regard to in India also, and we have a dedicated Buddhist circuit with regard to tourism in India as well. Let's review the eight principles, or the Ashtanga Marga of Lord Buddha. It says that the Ashtanga Marga, or the eightfold noble path, which says that a person should have a right view, right thought, right speech, right action, right livelihood, right effort, right attentiveness and concentration. These 8 paths now are arranged in 3 groups, that is the 3 skandhas, that is the class of morality, Sila skandha, the class of concentration, Samadhi skandha, and the class of wisdom, that is Prajna skandha. So these are the 3 skandhas in which the 8-fold path is classified into or arranged into. The next most important news was regarding your same-sex marriage, and this was with regard to your Special Marriage Act. Now, let me tell you that the Supreme Court is not looking into the religious acts which govern marriage institution in India, like your Hindu Marriage Act, Muslim Marriage Act, Christian Marriage Act. Instead, it is looking at a law, that is the Special Marriage Act, which allows for intercaste or interreligious marriages in India, and said that there is a provision in this law which calls for 30 days notice to be given with the intention to marry, and said that this is steeped in patriarchy now. So the recent Supreme Court hearing, which was discussing a batch of petitions by the Constitutional Bench for legalizing of or recognition of same-sex marriage, was looking into sections 5, 6, 7, 8 of the Special Marriage Act. And one of the sections says that the act requires the marriage officers to display on notice, giving a 30 days notice for any objections with regard to the marriage ceremony that is going to be solemnized. And this was criticized by our very own Chief Justice of India, D.Y. Chandrachud, who said that it shows a mindset of a patriarchy. And he said that the laws were made in India at that time when they did not have an agency, and therefore he was very concerned about the requirements now to give a 30 days for notice of marriage. The Kerala High Court, let me remind you, earlier this year said that the legislature should reconsider whether the provisions are essential at this present day and age. The Delhi High Court also said that when two consenting adults are decided to live together as husband and wife, nobody is entitled to interfere in their marriage issues. Now, let me tell you that the Supreme Court is looking at the Special Marriage Act to see if it can legalize the same-sex marriage or the same-sex unions in India under this Special Marriage Act, which is not related to religious laws anyway. The next most important news is a very sad news for our own MP Rahul Gandhi. So the Surat court has rejected the plea of stay on conviction, and now Rajiv Gandhi, let me tell you, was convicted on March 23rd by a Chief Judicial Magistrate Court of Surat. He went on to appeal in the Sessions Court, and that was turned down. So now he will have to go on to complete the jail term of 2 years which he was given, or he was assigned, because of the criminal defamation case in which he was convicted. So on March 23rd, the Chief Judicial Magistrate Court of Surat awarded a 2-year imprisonment, which is the maximum in such criminal defamation cases, and this was later suspended for 30 days, allowing or giving him a chance to appeal. And soon after the conviction, according to the Representation of People Act 1951, Section 8 says that once a person who is a sitting MLA or an MP, if they are convicted of any offence which has a punishment of 2 years or more, they will lose their MP membership or the MLA membership, and also they will be debarred from contesting elections for the next 6 years. On April 3rd, Rahul Gandhi, along with his sister Priyanka Gandhi, came to Surat to appeal to the Sessions Court, which to seek the stay on the conviction. But this was, however, dismissed, and now Rahul Gandhi has the appeal chance to High Court, and then after that Supreme Court. So Article 1021E of the Constitution, read along with Section 8 of the Representation of People Act 1951, says that if a person is convicted of any offence and sentenced for not less than 2 years, will be disqualified from the date of such conviction, and he shall be disqualified for further election for a period of 6 years after his release. And thus the disqualification was actually triggered because of the maximum sentence that he was given by the Chief Judicial Magistrate Court in the criminal defamation case. The next most important news is with regard to your Prime Minister's Awards for Public Administration. Now, Civil Services Day was celebrated on April 21st every year, and the government has started celebrating the Civil Services Day from 2006. So it is celebrated on 21st April every year to commemorate the speech of our very own first Home Minister Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel, which he gave to the civil servants. He is called as the Iron Man of India, and he addressed the probationers of the Administrative Service Officers at Metcalfe Hall in Delhi, and he referred to them as the steel frame of India. So April 21st since then has been celebrated as the Civil Services Day, and Government of India now has instituted Prime Minister's Awards for Excellence in Public Administration, which is instituted to recognize extraordinary innovative work done by the districts and organizations of the central along with the state governments for people's welfare. Now, the scheme of this Prime Minister's Award for Public Administration was restructured in 2014. Again, it was restructured in 2020. So, the scheme has been revamped with a new approach in 2021 with the objective to encourage constructive competition, innovation, replication and institutionalization of best practices. Let me tell you, there is a scheme called as Karma Yogi also, which the Prime Minister has launched for the civil servants in the country. So this is about the National Civil Services Day and how the civil servants are referred to as a steel frame or the backbone of the Indian government. Let me quote some important luminaries who and what they said about the civil service in India, which will really help you in your answer writing and also your essay writing as well. So the civil service servant is a man who serves his country with honesty, integrity and dedication, says our very own Prime Minister Narendra Modi. He also refers to them as Karma Yogi. And the role of civil servants is crucial in building a strong and a prosperous nation, says our former Prime Minister Manmohan Singh. The civil servant has a responsibility to act as a bridge between the government and the people. That's very true. And this is said by the former Prime Minister of India, Atal Bihari Vajpayee. Pranab Mukherjee goes on to say that civil servants are the backbone of the government and play a very crucial role in shaping the future of our people. And Jawaharlal Nehru says that the true test of a civil servant is not how much he knows, but how much he cares for his country. And this is about the civil services in India. The next most important rule is regarding false news. So the new IT rules were released recently, and they have been challenged by an NGO called as Internet Freedom Foundation. So the new IT rules allow for fact checking in public interest, and this is what the government of India says. So recently the Ministry of Electronics, Information and Technology came out with the IT rules 2023. It's called as IT Intermediary Guidelines Digital Media Ethics Code Amendment Rules 2023, and now these two rules have been challenged by an NGO called as the Internet Freedom Foundation, filed by a petition in the Bombay High Court. The NGO has called the rules as arbitrary, violating the fundamental rights of speech, expression, and calls them vague. The very next day, the bench asked the government to answer on the plea. However, the ministry said that the rules are in public interest, and it said that it provides for a fact-checking system for the mechanism to mainly deal with false or fake information that is misleading, and also leads to riots, mob lynching, and other heinous crimes. The government said that it will deal with removal of false or misleading information pertaining to the government policies and programs as false news. Let me tell you, with the access of smartphones, cheap internet data, social media accounts, users can not only have access to personal experiences, activities, beliefs, opinions, but also information related to the functioning of the government. And majority of the news related information that is circulated on the social media is produced by common users who may not have the possibility to verify whether the information is right or it's false, fake, etc. before publishing such news, and because of which there is anti-social and anti-India organizations that have been made using of this feature on the social media to deliberately amplify false information. And false information is a violation of right to speech, which under which right to correct information is one of the features as well. So there is a Misinformation Combat Alliance now. Let me tell you, it's a network of 14 digital publishers that has come up to the government to say that it will provide help as to form a self-regulatory body that would provide fact-checking services to social media platforms and also help in identifying fake news or false news. This is with regard to the IT rules that the government has recently published. And the MCA's membership includes the Boom TV, Factly, Logical Indian, Vishwas News and the Quint. So the MPA's proposal is to regulate misinformation that is unrelated to the union government, which is reportedly due to the centre's unwillingness to now hand out such a mandate to the international network like the International Fact-Checking Network. So the Ministry of Electronics and Information and Technology has now said that the fact-checking job will be done by the Press Information Bureau. However, this organization, which has been chosen by the Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology, has been criticized by many and said that they need an independent body to check for false information or fake information. The next most important is regard to the menace of stray dogs, and now the centre has asked the states to enforce the new rules which it has brought out with regard to animal birth control practices with regard to stray dogs. So the stray dog attacks have increased, and now the centre has reached out to the state's local government, resident welfare associations on implementing a new set of animal birth control rules prepared by the Ministry of Animal Husbandry recently. On March 10th, it notified these rules for maintaining and controlling the population of stray dogs and put the onus on the local self-governments and also the resident welfare association. So these are called as the Animal Birth Control Rules of 2023, and these were issued following the Supreme Court guidelines in a case between the Animal Welfare Board of India and the People for Elimination of Stray Troubles in the country. In 2023 rules which were notified, it was saying that these supersede the Animal Birth Control Rules of 2001 and Prevention of Cruelty to Animal Act 1960. Now, as per the new rules, the Animal Birth Control Program for sterilization and immunization of the stray dogs is going to be carried out by the local governments. And one of the requirements under this is that it should be carried out in coordination with the local governments by organizations who are recognized by the Animal Welfare Board of India, especially for this purpose. So these are the new rules, and this will deal with the human and the stray dog conflicts without relocating the dogs in the area. This is one of the most important news with regard to stray dogs, especially attacking small kids and women during the daylight. The most important next news is with regard to population. So population increase has many repercussions, not only for government policies, resources, employment, education, healthcare system, but also with regard to carrying capacity of our earth. So we have resources for a limited amount of population, and recently United Nations has released a population report which is called as the United Nations Population Fund State of World Population Report 2023. What are the highlights? It says India is going to surpass China as the world's most populous nation with 3 million more people in the middle of the year of 2023, and this was said by the UN Population Fund's report State of the World Population in 2023. However, this poses a challenge because now India will have to provide jobs, because most of the population in India is young, and it's going to be a challenge for China as most of the population in China is aging. There is also dearth for labor in China, and this is the reason for one of the factors why the growth rate of China has also been falling. So it says by 2050, 8 countries now will account for half of the projected growth of world population, and most of them are in Africa. It says Congo, Egypt, Ethiopia, India, Nigeria, Pakistan, Philippines and Tanzania will account for half of the projected global growth of the global population. China and India already account for a third of the estimated global population, which is already 8.045 billion by the mid-year 2023. India is overtaking China. This will also have significant economic implications because China's labor force is shrinking while India's labor force is increasing, and the young population in India is more. So it says that the young population is going to swell to about 1 billion in the next decade, but this poses a challenge to India if it does not change the population of the young people into an asset and it does not become a liability. So there is need for more skilling, more jobs and more healthcare system if you want this young population to prove to be a boon for the country rather than a bane or a liability. It also says that India's labor force participation in estimation, that is the estimation of the active workforce and people looking for jobs, stood at 46%, and it is the lowest in Asia according to the 2021 data from the World Bank. And also it reminds India that it is sitting on a time bomb if it does not create proper employment for the young population that it has in a very short time of period. The most important news for the next was with regard to quantum. Now, quantum mission. So we launched, the government of India has launched a 6,000 crore worth national quantum mission. So it has 4 verticals. Now this quantum mission will look at quantum computing, quantum communication, sensors, meteorology and also materials and devices. So the plan involves to build quantum computers with 20 to 50 physical qubits in 3 years, 50 to 100 qubits in 5 years and 50 to 1000 qubits in 8 years. This mission aims to develop magnetometers with high sensitivity, especially with atomic clocks, atomic systems, precision timing, communication and navigation. 4 thematic hubs will be set up in R&D institutions which will work in quantum computing, quantum communication, quantum system and meteorology and also quantum materials and devices. Only 6 countries in the world have this capability and India now has joined the line with them. So besides important civilian application like business, governance, quantum technology is the most important frontier now in military communication and can be a very important factor in deciding wars. The National Quantum Mission is boosting India's fledgling attempts to match China in quantum communication technology, which claims to have made huge leaps. Especially US and China are rivaling and racing each other to develop this technology, and now India has joined this race too. The other one is some of the some of the stands which have been taken by the Supreme Court of India, the petitioners in the same-sex marriage, and also what does the government of India say and what are the angles that the Supreme Court is looking at. Let's have a quick review of what has happened in the past 1 week since the Constitution Bench of the Supreme Court on the same-sex marriage has been formed. So Supreme Court formed the Constitution Bench in April 15th, and this was formed under Article 145, which says that it mandates it refers to the formation of 5-judge Constitution Bench if it involves substantial questions and interpretation of the Constitution by the Supreme Court. So the Supreme Court now has formed the Constitutional Bench, which is chaired by D.Y. Chandrachud, and calling it a very seminal issue. So the government of India, let me tell you, is against the same-sex marriage. It says that it will affect the ethos of the society. The centre is worried about the psychological impact that it would have on children. Marriage, the government says, is a holy union, a sacrament, a sanskar in India between a biological man and a biological woman. However, Chandrachud has said that the rights of life, dignity, equal treatment, members of the LGBTQ community have to be protected along with the heterogeneous people in the society as well. The petitioners argued that apart from decriminalizing the sexual relation between two same genders, they should also have the right to family and also the right to legalize marriage and the choice of partners. They say that the right to life includes right to choice, dignity, family, marriage, procreating, sexual orientation, and they want to have the right to make fundamental choice with regard to marriage as well. Supreme Centre on its part came up and said that the same-sex marriage demand for legalizing it is actually a urban elitist concept, and for this the Supreme Court backlashed and said that the government does not have any data to claim that it's an urban concept, just because many people are coming out of the closet, coming out in the open to address their rights on their own. And now the Supreme Court is looking if the Special Marriage Act can be amended and their place can be made in the Special Marriage Act without touching on the religious laws, so that the Special Marriage Act can be made gender neutral. Now Section 4 of the Special Marriage Act 1954 says that two persons can get married provided the male is above 21 years of age and the female is 18 years of age. And the Supreme Court is looking at the avenue to change these between two persons, to say marriage between two persons rather than addressing them as man and woman, so that the Special Marriage Act can be made gender neutral. So the Supreme Court said that there is no absolute concept of man and woman, and the concept of man and woman is far more complex than mere genitals that it involves. The Supreme Court said that it will not go into the personal laws of marriage governing marriage, like the Hindu Marriage Act, Muslim Marriage Act, etc. And while deciding the pleas of legalization of same-sex marriage, and asked the lawyers instead to advance their arguments only on the basis of Special Marriage Act, which allows for inter-caste marriage or inter-religious marriage. Special Marriage Act of 1954 provides a legal framework for marriage in India for people belonging to different religions or caste, and it governs civil marriage where the state sanctions the marriage rather than the religion. Supreme Government, on the other hand, has said that let the Supreme Court leave the institution of marriage to the legislature to decide. So the centre says that marriage is an institution which can be created, recognized, conferred with legal sanctity only by the competent legislature, and that's the parliament. It says legislature will have to take into account broader views, the voice of rural, semi-rural, urban population, views of religious denominations, personal laws, as well as customs and governing these marriage. It says that Supreme Court should first decide the maintainability of the petitions, and says the questioning regarding legal recognition of same-sex marriage will seriously affect the interests of the citizens in the country, and says that it is best to leave the creation of new social institutions to the legislature. Now the government also went on to say that it is wrong on the part of the Supreme Court to carry on the arguments regarding the same-sex marriage on its own, while marriage is a concurrent list, and it is both the centre and the states that should be party to an issue which is under the concurrent list, and therefore wanted the Supreme Court to actually stall the proceedings for some time until some states come on board, and also they are also part of the proceedings. So this is what the Supreme Court said. While certain queer partners and LGBTQ members of the community criticized the government for saying that it is only an urban elitist manner, and said that many people from many rural backgrounds also have their own interests and therefore face the stigma and the criticism with regard to same-sex union or cohabitation, and wanted their rights to be recognized by the court and the government as well. So the centre said that the subject of marriage comes under entry 5 of the list 3 of the constitution under the concurrent list, and therefore the Supreme Court should wait until few the states also come on board. So this is all about the recent arguments which have happened between the centre, the petitioners and the Supreme Court looking at the same-sex union. However, tomorrow, that is April 24th, there will be no proceedings regarding the Constitution Bench of the Supreme Court because 2 judges have indisposed, and therefore there will be a break with regard to hearing the pleas regarding to same-sex union. Let's move forward, and the next most important is Panchayat Raj Awards Week is being celebrated from April 17th to 21st, and this is to the run-up of National Panchayat Raj Day, which is celebrated on April 23rd every year to commemorate when the 73rd Amendment Act of India, that is in 1992, came into force. So it came into effect in April 24th, 1993. Gram Panchayat is also called as village council, and these are basic governing institutions similar to the cabinet. You can look at them as a cabinet at the village level. Gram Sabha works as a general body of the Gram Panchayat, and all the members of the Gram Panchayat are directly elected by the people. So it's called as democracy at the grassroots level. Therefore, to further strengthen the Gram Sabha and its working and also bring in more transparency, the government is now going to launch a new mobile application called as GS Nirnay. Let's look what is Nirnay called. The acronym Nirnay means. It means National Initiative for Rural India to Navigate, Innovate, Resolve Panchayat Decisions has been developed, and it will provide verification of facts where necessary or in case of queries that may arise with regard to resolutions undertaken during the Gram Sabha, and this would bring more transparency and efficiency in functioning of the panchayats. Now the awards for panchayats are going to be presented, namely, and these awards are in the following category, that is the Deen Dayal Upadhyay Panchayat Satat Vikas Puraskar, you have the Nanaji Deshmukh Sarvottam Panchayat Satat Vikas Puraskar, you have the Gram Urja Swaraj Vishesh Panchayat Puraskar, and the Carbon Neutral Vishesh Panchayat Puraskar also will be given on April 24th, that is tomorrow. The next most and the last third important news is with regard to the Supreme Court now questioning the power of remission to the convicts of Bilkis Bano in the case in state of Gujarat and centre. So what are the grounds that you have taken to given remission to the 11 convicts of the Bilkis Bano case? Please answer the government of Gujarat and the centre. This was what the Supreme Court called out and said. So the court explained it was very important for it to examine the records whether the state government had independently applied its mind to give remission in such a heinous crime of Bilkis Bano before or all the relevant factors have been taken into consideration before granting remission to the 11 men who have been sentenced to life imprisonment for assaulting the then pregnant Bilkis Bano and also the horrendous mass murder of family members during the 2002 riots. The Supreme Court asked what are the standards that the government had actually applied for remission and wanted an answer or a reply on this, and this is being awaited. So let me tell you that in India both laws and statutory provisions with regard to the CRPC, IPC and also constitutional articles provide for pardoning powers to both the president and the governor. So we have the Criminal Procedure Code sections 432, 433, 433A, 434, 435 providing the ground for suspension, remission and commutation of sentences, while Article 72 and 161 provide the same powers to the governor and the President of India. Article 72 says that the President can grant pardon, suspend, remit, commute the sentences where the punishment is by a court-martial or the punishment is for an offence where the law relating to which the executive power of the union extends, or in case of a death sentence. And Article 161 says that the governor can grant pardons, reprieve, respites, remissions of punishment or suspend, remit or commute the sentence of a person convicted of offence under the law where the executive power of the state extends. So the exercise of powers by the president and the governor can be challenged now before the Constitutional Court on the ground of arbitrariness, non-application of mind, malafide nullified or non-consideration of relevant material, and that is why the Supreme Court is now hearing the plea of Bilkis Bano and question on what grounds the remission has been given. The next most important and the last issue for the day is about the executive. Again, a tussle between the Tamil Nadu governor and the executive of Tamil Nadu. So, Tamil Nadu legislature has passed a resolution calling the centre to telling them to put a time-bound period within which the governor should send back the bill, and also send a message to all the non-BJP ruled states asking them to pass similar resolutions and bill. And Kerala and Mamata Banerjee have now responded. So, the Kerala CM responded to MK Stalin's resolution, said that he supports the resolution where urging the centre and the president to fix the time limit within which the governors should approve the bill passed by the legislature, and they have written to the other states as well. Now, like Tamil Nadu, Kerala Governor Arif Mohammed Khan is also sitting over bills passed by the legislature, and like the bill to remove him from the post of Chancellor of Universities, and also curtailing the powers of the Lokayukta, which were pending before the Raj Bhavan for more than 2 months. While in Telangana states, it said that the bills were pending since September 2022, almost 7 months, and this was the complaint where it went to file a plea in the Supreme Court under Article 32 and said it is creating a constitutional impasse in the working of the executive. Now, Article 200 says that when a bill is passed by the Legislative Assembly, it goes to the governor, and the governor shall have the power to declare whether he assents the bill or withholds assent or reserves the bill for the consideration of the president. And Article 201 provides that when the bill is reserved by the governor for the consideration of the president shall either declare whether he assents the bill, withhold his assent. Let me tell you that the president has the power of pocket veto with regard to state bills. So this is proving as a conflict between the governor and the executive, that is the chief minister in the functioning of the states. So West Bengal Chief Minister reached out to a Tamil Nadu counterpart MK Stalin and said that she expressed a support for all the resolution that there should be a time limit within which the governor should actually result. So really, do we need, and for this there will be a need for a constitutional amendment, and that constitutional amendment has to be supported by at least half of the states, because the state or the federal powers are involved in this. And there have been many commissions like center state commissions or the Administrative Reforms Commission who have actually called for a time limit within which the governor should whether he assents to bill, withhold his bill, or the reasons for what they are reserving the bill for the consideration of the president. However, none of these recommendations have been implemented, and there's going to be a debate whether there should be a limit within which the governor should actually send back the bills or inform whether he gives his assent, withholds his assent, or the reasons for which he is placing the bills for consideration of the president. So this is one of the most important laws. The constitution makers have given this power to the governor to check for ill-considered legislation or haste legislation or with any negative political motives. So there will be a big debate and discussion before the constitution actually brings changes, because the constitution makers have thought before bringing this position, keeping in mind we have a parliamentary system of government where politics plays a major role in governments. And this is all about your most important news for the week. And ending with the National Mission for Clean Ganga, the Namami Gange project has got the status of one of the top 10 UN programs for restoration, and we are already in the decade of ecosystem restoration. So 2021 to 2030 is the decade for ecosystem restoration. Ganga is the most important for river in India because it holds 40% of India's population. It covers 2,500 kilometer of 2,500 species of flora and fauna, and almost 8.61 billion square kilometers of basin. So you have important species like dolphins, turtles, otters, gharials, fish like hilsa. So recently the Namami Gange has now provided money for more projects for cleansing and rejuvenating of the river Ganga. And this is all for the week gone by with regard to your polity and governance. I shall see you in the next post. Happy learning.